Welcome to episode 44 of Winging It, Textor's sticky toffee pudding. Oh dear, John Textor. We'll get into him shortly. Got Albert and Hesketh. Albert, you doing all right, mate?
Doing all right, mate.
How's the first week of being 40 treating you? Any new creaks or anything?
I'm very. Oh, well, I suppose did we know? Did we know? No, we didn't. Joe had COVID, so the birthday weekend was slightly dampened, but there is just a general aching and lethargy that's coming this week. I'm hoping it's not COVID. It's probably more just being 40.
Just the sort of age when you start getting injured when you wake up.
Yeah, exactly. And I found myself making noises just like just more this week. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know. So yeah, it's basically, other than that, relatively harmless. Got an air fryer from the in-laws.
That's a good present.
Got a raclette.
Oh, that's an even better present.
Neither of which I've had the balls to open and try and operate yet. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to need a whole new original Penguin wardrobe once you start using those, mate.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? I've heard all about the air fryer.
Air fryer's great.
Yeah, well.
And Sam Hesketh's here. He's currently keeping an eye on the TV for when the League Cup draw takes place.
I am. We're still in the cup currently.
We're still in
Official.
there currently.
What number are we?
I think I read we were number 5, but I also may have made that up.
Okay. How do they do the numbers?
Alphabetical order, isn't it?
Is it?
Actually, it can't be because the round hadn't finished yet, had it?
I have read it somewhere once, but I can't remember.
We are confirmed. Ball number 5.
Excellent.
Number 5.
Looking forward to Man City away.
Cannot wait.
We'll see what goes. So let us know when that happens.
Terence, how are you?
I'm well. I've had one of those weeks. AirPods have gone through the washing machine, and a bowl of rice did not save them. So I'm currently wearing my daughter's pink and flashing wireless headphones.
Did you put them in a bowl of rice, or did you just eat a bowl of rice to try and take your mind off it?
I cooked some sticky rice and I just planted them in the middle.
Yeah, nice.
No, sad to say, they do not work, and they're also not cheap.
No, and neither do the headphones that you're wearing. They don't look very cheap either because they've got full-on LED lights on them.
I don't think these were expensive.
If I squint, it's like one half of Daft Punk's on the screen.
Yes, great shout.
Yeah, and the other on the other screen is Daft Cunt.
That's the bit of like that picture you found this week that you said was mine and Hesketh's love child.
Oh my god, I forgot about
that. I was not happy about this at all.
Why?
I'll have to share it on the socials. When it's just a thumbnail, when it's tiny and you can only sort of see the picture, it does look like me a lot.
I mean, I'm holding the phone up between. I need another picture to take a picture of this, but I'm holding the phone up between the two of you. It is amazing. Wow. I have to do that at the end.
But no, yeah, I'm doing all right, except from stage 1 of my outrageous prediction was activated this week. If you remember, my outrageous prediction for the season was that Adam Wharton goes to Manchester City in a British transfer record fee in January. And a certain Rodri has done his ACL in the middle of Manchester City's midfield. Not good news.
No.
What did either of you watch? City, Arsenal.
No.
See the highlights.
I've seen the highlights of Haaland bouncing the ball off Gabriel's head. I thought that was quite funny.
I saw most of the second half.
I mean, both of Arsenal's goals are out of order, to be honest. It's just interesting refereeing decisions because I thought the calling Carl Walker, the captain, over to you to talk to him about just general conduct on the field and then allow play to start before he's got back into position is pretty outrageous. And then Arsenal basically then did what they did to us last season with the blocking from corners, which is, I mean, they're just about borderline within the rules, I guess. But to have two players just wander in and completely block off the goalkeeper from being able to move anywhere feels a bit dodge. But
well, yeah, but not for me to sit here and stick up for Arsenal, but Man City, they give just as good as they get. I know they're obviously a fantastic footballing team, but they give just as good as they get when it comes to the dark arts, and they definitely get away with murder. So I was actually reveling in the fact that I was actually a little bit gutted when they got the equaliser because it was really nice to see them all losing their heads and not getting everything their own way, despite it being against the second best team in the league, who again can't say I've got much sort of affection for, but it was an interesting watch as a neutral, I've got to say.
Yeah, my Man City supporting boss said, I can't really say anything considering we are the masters of stopping counter-attacks with fouls halfway in our own halves when it's not a yellow. So, yeah, dark arts it is. Leave it to that. It was a dark day in the women's kicking off their WSL campaign, losing 4-0 to Spurs. I think it's going to be a very tough season. Hesketh, loads of players have come in. It's been a big overhaul to try and get them WSL ready, but it's going to be a tough season, it looks like.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I didn't watch the game, but by all accounts, we started off all right and, sort of make it quite tough to begin with. And then the golf in class told. I mean, I looked at the stats. I know stats don't tell every story, but 26 shots to 4 is pretty indicative of where it seemed to go. But like you say, we've brought in loads and loads and loads of players, some of whom were only announced very close to the start of the season. So I don't know how much they've been training together, a bit like we've talked about with the new players in the men's team. But I don't think it gets any easier because I'm pretty sure our next game is Chelsea, who are also pretty good. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a long old season for the women's team, but hopefully they sort of get it together and put out some results and stay up, because I think only one team goes down, don't
they? But just to pull you up and say, sorry, the golfing class is taking place at AFC Wimbledon's ground? But I forgot to open my beer. I've only got a Beavertown neck oil this week. Yeah,
slumming it.
Yeah,
slumming it.
Yeah. Albert, are you on the sours now? Did it turn you last week?
It turned my mouth inside out. No, I'm skipping the beer this week. Just it's been a lush few days. So
fair enough. Everything in moderation when you hit 40.
Exactly. I've got my future to think about now.
I don't think that other beer I got you was a sour.
Sorry, the one that I haven't drunk yet. Right, yes. Sorry. Yeah, it might not be. It's
okay, good.
It's
in
sort
the bin.
No. Just over the week, it sort of got a bit further back in the fridge because the other things have come, and there's that half-eaten yogurt that is in front of it, and then
it's being man-marked by 4 Cruz Campos.
The avocado that's on the turn, that's in front of it as well. So I'll have to dig it. I'll dig it out at the weekend.
Okay. Some good Palace news this weekend. The under-21s in is it still the pizza trophy?
Great question. I don't even know anymore.
The Papa John's trophy.
Yeah, they've gone and
full to the brim with garlic and herb, whatever they call that.
According to the Palace app, it's just called the EFL trophy. So maybe they don't have a sponsor anymore.
Okay, so the EFL trophy then. 3-1. Johnny Esther's Gillingham, no less. Dispatched by the Ute. But we'll just move on from that. That's a shit trophy.
Rob Holden getting 90 minutes, though. So delighted at that, obviously.
Happy birthday.
Banish.
Happy birthday.
And then... John Textor's back in the news. I can't believe this. I'm going to do it. I'm going to click this button and you're going to have to listen to this. How much is that toffee in the window? The one with the legendary towel. How much is that toffee in the window? I do hope that toffee's for sale.
He's fallen into a vortex at the end of it.
Wow. So not ow. Wow.
John Textor's Everton bid has fallen through. And after spending a whole week twerking for Everton and giving it all, with all due respect to Palace and all of that, he's now back slumming it in South London with nowhere to turn.
With his skateboard between his legs. Look who's come skateboarding back in.
Glad you finished that sentence.
I mean, it's not great, is it? I think we all said a couple of weeks ago that whole 30th of November thing, it was nonsense. There was no way he was going to be in a position to buy Everton by that point. And it turns out it only took everyone a week to realise that. And
it's not even the 30th of September.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a mess, really, because of the way he was basically talking like he'd left Palace already, is the way he was going on. And now, I mean, it's funny how timing works in football. We head to Everton this weekend. Just as they get a wonderful piece of news, Goodison's going to be up for it. But
what? John Textor's not buying them?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea who the people are who's coming in to buy them, but they can't be worse than Textor, surely.
I'm sure they can be, but it's unlikely. But I mean, and you say it's funny. We're still lumbered with him, so I don't know how funny it is actually.
Yeah, I mean, Hesketh, has he made his position kind of untenable now? Does he need to just set up and get lost?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like you say, he was talking as if it was already done. And I think he knows from the news that come out a little bit before, where he put out that weird press release on his website about, he thought the other two were going to buy the shares and he's offered to buy their shares, but he doesn't think that they want to do that, but he's going to bid anyway. I think he's just sort of, it's a bit of a shiny new toy. Everton was a shiny new toy. He wants to go and own Everton, and he's had enough of Palace, and he wants to spend all of his money. And he's just, I mean, I'm sure there are still some people at Palace fans who like him, but I think he's alienated himself quite a lot because he can't keep his mouth shut. And if he wants to do his multi-club model thing, which he clearly does, and he wants to do it in the Premier League, which he seems to do, then he's going to have to bin us off as quickly as he can to do it, isn't he? So I think best for everyone if he does that and takes his skateboard elsewhere.
Yeah, or he just buys everyone out now and stays because he's got all the money that he was going to spend on Everton. But messy.
Can't see that happening. Can you see that happening?
I don't know. Not really, because I just don't think anyone else wants to sell.
No.
I don't think he's got the sort of money that could turn their heads enough to say, oh, that's a too good an offer to turn down. So I doubt it.
Incidentally, the people that are going to buy Everton are the people that own Roma. So we should ask friend of the pod, Carl, what he thinks of them.
I don't think they've been there long, though. Hasn't Roma changed hands a few times in the last few years?
But that I have no idea.
See.
Yeah. Get Totti on the pod. He'll tell us.
What? Even more totty than us three?
Yeah. Right. Manchester United. Unfortunately, we didn't beat them 3 times for a third time in a row. And it did finish 0-0, but up there, Hesketh, with one of the best 0-0s you've ever seen?
Fucking hell.
Because it was for me.
I probably wouldn't have said that at half time, to be honest. I thought it was good. I actually thought the atmosphere was really good on Saturday. Might be something to do with it being an evening game on a Saturday and, being on telly and that sort of thing. I don't know if I'd say it was one of the best 0-0s I've ever seen, but certainly at the end of the game, there was a good mix of it's a shame we didn't win, but I've been quite entertained. So yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, I think it was a weird one because they battered us to within an inch of our lives in the first half, and then to come away feeling like actually we could have nicked that was a bit of a weird feeling. But we'll get into why that might have been. How did it go in the Curly household? Given one half United, one half Palace,
one half COVID, one half not COVID. Well, yeah, it was. Jo was sort of dozing in and out of sleep for most of it because she felt quite rough, to the point where when Eze gets that pull back and puts it just outside the post, I had to do a very, very restrained because Jo was sprawled across me on my lap, so I didn't want to wake her up. But yeah, I thought it was, like I say, for a 0-0, certainly a game of 2 halves, we would absolutely fucking just couldn't land a punch on them first half, and very lucky not to be probably. If it had been 2-0 at half time, I don't think anybody could have necessarily complained. Just didn't look ourselves. And then, football cliche alert, as long as it's 0-0, you've still got a chance of winning it. So, yeah, to sort of come away the last 10 minutes thinking, oh, yeah, we could have nicked that. It just goes to show how tight it was and how sort of the pendulum swung back and forth. But we grew into the game, I thought. But, yeah, first half on the TV, I can't say I was enjoying myself.
Yeah, so I think there was a very clear reason to why we couldn't lay a glove on them. Before the game, if you remember last year when we played United, we had Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic on the pod. And I used to live with him, and he came up to the house before the match, before he started work, to just come and have a chat, have a cup of tea. And then when the teams came out, I messaged him immediately and said, "You're going to run us over." And the reason why is because it was Kamada and Wharton in the midfield too. And this is not Kamada bashing in any stretch of the imagination. I'd just rather him further up the pitch. But could you imagine, and this is not me saying I would want Roy Hodgson as our manager over Oliver Glasner. But
however,
Allardyce, Hodgson, anyone like that, any one of those English managers in the past are not putting in any game 20 Premier League appearances with a 20-year-old in the centre of the park, with a guy who's literally just come to the country and has 2 Premier League appearances, not as a centre midfielder, and is slight and lightweight. To have that utter lack of experience in the middle of the park was just suicide. And looking at it on paper, that's what it read like. You was like Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes and Kobe Menu are opposite you. And that's perfect. Everyone talks about this Wharton, Menu, who's better, blah, blah, blah. Wharton, alongside Kamada, was just pulled out of shape all the time and didn't know what to do because he didn't have the experience alongside him, where Mainu had Christian Eriksen coaching him through the game, who has played at the very top levels of the game. And then Bruno Fernandes ahead of them, causing all sorts of problems. So those two just got completely overrun in the middle of the park. And I'm sorry, I could see that was going to happen before the game. Fast forward to the second half, then we've got circa 330-odd Premier League appearances in the middle of the park in Will Hughes and Jefferson Lerma, and the game completely does a 180. And as I said earlier, we're unlucky not to win the game by the end of it because we created some great chances. And it was because we claimed the middle of the park in the second half. So, I mean, it's quite often, Hesketh, this season we're talking about, it's Glasner making mistakes, really.
Yeah.
What was fantastic, what Hodgson would never have done, was he remedied them mostly at half time with a double substitution. But it's his mistake again to put Kamada in the middle of the field.
Yeah. I was like you when I saw the team. When I saw the team sheet, I didn't really see why he was putting Kamada in as deep as he did. I read a feature on the Athletic today from Matt Woosnam, which mentioned that he had played there quite a lot at Frankfurt, but he just doesn't seem to be, to me, that sort of player who would flourish in that role. Nothing that we've seen of him so far as a Palace player would lead you to think that he would flourish in that role. And it's definitely not Kamada bashing, but it's one of those, like, if you play players in their best position, they'll probably give their best performance. And I don't think that's where he's best suited. So I do think it was a mistake. We talked at the end of last week about who we would put in, whether we would put in Lerma, whether we would put in Hughes. I don't think either of us or any three of us would have put Kamada in alongside Wharton. But like you said, he did remedy it quickly, I think, bringing on, because he brought on Lerma and Sarr, didn't he, at half time. And I thought both of those are very good. Lerma certainly made a big difference in the middle, like you said, helped us take control of the football, got the ball moving better, could pass 5 yards, which a lot of players couldn't really do in the first half. And I thought Sarr, again, as he has from every sub-appearance this season, really, looked like he could do some damage and should get a start. So, yeah, I agree with everything you say. And I do think it was a mistake, but at least we seem to have a manager who realises when things aren't working and doesn't wait until 75 minutes, 85 minutes to change it. He's happy to hold his hands up and say, this is what we're going to change and this is when we're going to do it. And it's at half time. Yeah.
Excuse me. There's a YouTube show called Hot Ones. I think we might have talked about it before in the pod, where people eat increasingly hotter wings as they're asked questions. And Ibrahimovic has been on it this week. And one of the questions to him was, if an alien came down to planet Earth today and said, concisely tell me what the difference is between La Liga, Premier League and Serie A. And he talks about the Premier League just like the Premier League is just in your face, fast, end-to-end, constant. And, there's other countries where the technical side of the game is more important, or the tactical side or whatever, but he's like, that's going to get you nowhere in the Premier League if you can't handle the pace of the situation. And that is exactly sums up Kamada's position at the moment. Technically, we all know he's got the game. Like, you can tell he's got the game. And he can get away with his shortcomings in the pace a bit more further up the field. But it doesn't matter that he's played centre midfield in Germany. It's a completely different league. And he's getting overrun in there when it comes to Premier League. He isn't strong enough. We've already seen players completely outmuscle him over and over again. His legs are like crisps in tackles. They just snap away, just can't do anything.
What sort of crisp, just out of interest?
Twiglets.
I just hate cheese and onion, so it'll have to be cheese and onion because they're not performing well.
Fair enough.
Or skips, like just melts in a tackle.
Just yeah, absolutely.
So he's not for me in there, and surely we won't see it again now after that. Surely
No,
not.
and United were playing quite high, weren't they? And they just the smothering or sort of blanket they put across the middle of the park. Eze was just getting no joy, and it wasn't. The Kamada and Wharton combo didn't help, and obviously, Wharton plays a slightly dodgy backwards pass similar to the one we saw against Leicester, and it looked like the writing was on the wall first half, and Henderson's had to make great saves, and they've hit the post twice. So we definitely got away with it in the first half. But like you say, credit to Glasner for not being so stubborn that he refuses to change it until it's definitely too late. So, and I thought Sarr in particular, I thought he looked great second half, and it's a nice problem to have. But I think we're obviously trying to fit Nketiah and Mateta into the starting 11, which then obviously has repercussions on what goes on behind. So I still think it's going to take us a couple of games, a few more games to work out what is the best shape for the best 11. But we won't be seeing Wharton and Kamada in the middle again, I'm sure.
And you've mentioned the man of the moment there, Dean Henderson. I mean, again, I've talked about it many times. I've kept the receipts of everyone who said we should have kept Johnston, but it was just an astonishing first half from him, starting with the save from Garnacho, which, United just passed through the middle of our park like it's not their lovely ball to release Garnacho, and he just looks like he's an absolute shoo-in to score. But Henderson snaps away to his left and gets his arm out and pushes it wide. And then is it from the resulting corner that De Ligt has a free header at the back post?
It's the free header, yeah, which was just,
Which you could see coming all day long in the stands. I was stood there like, why is he stood on his own? I know we do this zonal thing, but no one seems to see this massive defender who's good at heading stood just behind him.
And it happened again about 12 minutes later. It's very lucky. Very, yeah. I couldn't. I'd struggle with that name. But yeah, we just look very, very. I said it again. I think I said it against QPR. We just look very tender at the back, and I don't like it.
Yeah, and shortly after, get another cross into the near post, and I don't know what the two defenders doing at near post, and it bounces up for Martinez, and Henderson again stands big at the near post, keeps it away with his legs, and then we get the Garnacho Fernandez double crossbar hit, which is this. I don't think this. It's just the way I'm going to phrase my question. Hesketh. Was it Michael Elise that made Munoz look like Cafu?
No, I'm team Munoz. He'll be fine. What I was going to wonder is where Fernandez missed the rebound off the bar was about the same position that Ayew missed his shot against us for Leicester. I reckon just that bit of the area is cursed. We need to do it to the rest of the area so we never let a goal in.
Maybe it's in like the cross beams or the floodlights or something. But no, it was a difficult finish for him though. Like it wasn't a gimme. It wasn't a tap in by any stretch of the imagination. He's having to hit it on the up, and yeah, tough. We've just been reliably informed that the League Cup draw has started, so
it has. And Wimbledon, Newcastle have just come out of the pot. We won't be playing Man City because they're already out, and it's not Palace, it's Chelsea. AFC Wimbledon, Newcastle versus Chelsea. Talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah. And then we get what I think is Henderson's best save of the game, but which weirdly doesn't make some of the highlight packages, but it's the one when Fernandez flashes the ball across the face of goal. Xerxes gets the touch on it, and Garnacho comes sliding in, a defender comes sliding in, the ball's bobbling all over the place, and he has to wait to see if Garnacho gets a touch, and when he doesn't, full extend himself and the count for the bobbles and pushes it wide while taking the hit from Garnacho. It's just an incredible save, really, really is. And at this point, it's still, you just still see that there's a distance between people taking to him because there are some people really going for it with Dino, and then other people just standing there not saying anything. And you can see he looks around. He is so crowd aware, and he was looking around and looking at people that weren't doing it and people that were doing it and so on. Like he definitely knows what's going on in the stands without a doubt. Which goes back to QPR and him trying to start the "We love you" chant, which is But
I think I
I
definitely think there are still people who are not sold on him. A lot of what I see is that his distribution is not great. And the cup draw has ended with the last team out of the hat. We've got Villa away.
Oh,
and the draw, the tie before was Preston, so we could have had Preston away to relive your favourite away game.
that's tough.
So yeah, with Henderson, like there definitely are people that are still not sold him and they don't like his distribution, which can get better. I mean, it definitely can, but I don't think you can look at his performances against Chelsea and Man U, which have absolutely won us points in those games, and think that he's at least not a very good goalkeeper. You know what I mean? I sort of read some opinions or hear some opinions where you think they were talking about just like Remy Matthews, with respect to Remy Matthews, you know, not someone who's pulling out some absolutely unbelievable saves in games that we've seen lately. So I hope people do turn around on him, because I think he is a good goalie. And I do think that the more support he gets from the stands, the better it will be for everyone. And well, more performances like Saturday, and I'm sure he will.
Yeah, brilliant performance. And as I said, at half time, just as I was coming up the Homesdale to go back and get a beer, I opened Twitter and the first thing I saw was someone slagging off his distribution. I'm just like, there are times and there are places, and he's just pulled off 4 world-class saves in the first half to keep us in this game. Without him, we'd be 4-0 down. Just shut up. And yeah. And Nketiah, I think, I thought he was just having a cardio session for most of that first half, because he was running around and barely touched the football. But he finally, towards the end of the half, got on the ball and just went, fuck this, I'm going to do it myself, and run off on a mazy run, slots Mitchell in and gets a cutback. And it's cutback number 1 of 2 for Eze in this game, which Albert, he just sort of rolls back to Anana. You're on mute, buddy. Spacebar.
Dramatic pause. The Eze chance. I think he has a little bit more time than he probably thought as well, and you know, he's just when he gets it right, he can hit the ball so much better than that. And so yeah, that's a when you see that pass come across Eze, you're almost halfway up because you think it's going to go in top right or whatever, but unfortunately it didn't. But it was good. You know, that was the first. You know, it's classic. We've been on the back foot for 43 minutes or whatever it is, 44 minutes, and then that happens. I know around the same time, Lacroix and Richards swap sides, and I can't keep up which side either of those two play on anymore, because it seems to be happening all the time. I don't know how you felt Lacroix did, because obviously Garnacho was definitely their sort of main threat for most of that first half, but. You know, I don't know how. Do we feel Lacroix improved?
Yeah, so I've got him later on in the order here to talk about. We can do it now. I thought second half he was much better. Mm-hmm. Really thought he played himself his game, and I think we said it last week. He hasn't had any pre-season. Did
they swap back in the second half? I can't remember.
They did swap back again. Yeah, and he was much better in the second half. And won some like really key headers, some really key interceptions, looked strong. And it just, the unit in front of him was just much better, like we say, with Lerma and then eventually Hughes getting on as well. And just having those two in front of him just gave him an extra layer of security as well. And the team looked more like a unit. And I think it really brought more out of him. So, yeah, he gave me confidence that he's the player that I thought we signed.
There was a point as well in the first half. And I agree there completely, that I thought he grew into the game a lot, especially in the second half. But there was a point in the first half where the ball was pumped down the wing and Garnacho was after it, and Lacroix was sort of behind him and then just accelerated and got there first. And I remember us talking last week about how the one thing you hear about Lacroix is his pace is unbelievable. And we were all saying, well, we haven't really seen that. In fact, he looks a bit sluggish. And that was the first time we've really seen him like motor. And it's a weird running action because I think because he's such a big bloke. But like when that happened, I was like, all right, hopefully this is like, obviously that's not going to like completely change his game, but hopefully that's a bit of a confidence boost. And then, like you say, in the second half, he won a few headers. He had a few nice touches to like bring the ball down and get away from a Man U player. And every little thing like that I'm sure will help build that confidence up. So hopefully it's the start of the Lacroix that we signed.
Then second half, getting one for the cameras from Henderson as he tips over a Garnacho shot. And then this ends up resulting in the Martinez challenge, which, Albert, I don't know how you feel about this. For me, if that's not a red card because of the way the rules are worded, then the rules are wrong. Because everyone I know thought that was a red.
Idiot jump, I call that. Yeah. It's a red card. Just because he's fucked it up and missed the bloke. Do you know what I mean? It's the intent is there. It's really dangerous. I sort of have, when someone comes flying in, sliding tackle, and there's a high leg. Sometimes the red can be a bit harsh because you think, well, they're off their feet, they're sliding in, and that's where all the element of control comes in. But there's no excuse for doing what Martinez does. There's no can't even put on a stupid reason why that action should be allowed. And what else is he trying to do? What is he doing, trying to pop the ball? Like,
well, he did. He literally did. They had to throw the ball off and get.
I didn't notice that. So yeah, and if a player walks up to another player and takes a swing at his face, the referee's still going to send him off, isn't he? He's not going to be like, you've tried to hit him, but you haven't touched him, so just be careful. Let's play on. It's not right, and again, compounded by the fact that VAR should be able to intervene on that. But did he get a yellow card, which meant they couldn't? Was that the...
No, you can upgrade a yellow to a red, but they're just hiding behind this reckless versus whatever the other word is. Like reckless, they're just saying it was reckless. It wasn't, it didn't harm him. So basically what you're saying is he's got to land on Kamada's foot and break his bones in his foot for him to get a red card.
Yeah.
That's just, it's not like just... Yeah, and you see Henderson ended up getting booked as well, so he's effectively taking the same punishment for just coming out and saying to the ref he's stamped. Like it doesn't matter that he hasn't connected; it's a stamp. And I was not happy.
It's mad. It's exactly like Albert said. There's no scenario where you need to jump and stamp your feet down in the challenge ever, unless Lewis dunks on the floor, but.
Especially considering it was Kawada as well. He could have just blew at him and he would have just moved away.
That's the thing I don't get with that challenge. And like you say, the word...
one of his what's it legs.
And it's like the wording of like, has he endangered anything or it's reckless? And it's like, well, like, does he need to break someone's legs in order to get sent off? That doesn't seem really what the rules should be for, does it? Absolutely mad. Absolutely mad.
Yeah. I mean, Kamada should have just made a meal of it. Should have just said, right, again, no experience there, probably too honest. But if he goes down holding his foot there, because it does look like on the camera angles they got that he might have glanced his foot or something. He should have just gone down and rolled around, because I guarantee they would have ended up probably having to send him off then. But there you go. And this is then basically where we start to really get into the game and why we end up basically in the situation, as we said earlier, where we probably feel a little bit unlucky not to win it in the end. And it starts with Onana's double save, Albert, where another great little drive from Nketiah in the pocket. lets off a good shot, which Onana gets down well to save, and Sarr's coming flying in. And I don't think Sarr does anything wrong. It's just a phenomenal save from Onana.
Yeah, it is a phenomenal save. Hendo's done it for us. It's only fair that their keeper does it for them. But it's a shame. Again, it's just another. There's definitely. There was a moment when they cut to Mateta on the bench. I can't. Obviously, he was on the bench. It was after he went off, but I can't remember how soon it was after he went off. But there was the cynic in me, and it's not the Mateta vendetta. It definitely looked a bit worried. Definitely had a worried look on his face, like, "Oh fuck, these two are playing all right actually," and we've had a few chances. So yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see Nketiah. The clearest chances we've had. He's played a vital role in establishing those phases of play, whether it was for the Mitchell Eze sort of link up in the first half. And I think, once that clicks, and it feels like it'll click sooner if Sarr's involved. I think Sarr's done ever so well every time he's come on, and I think he's definitely earned a chance to start. But it's just, who does Glasner take out? But yeah, it's a fantastic save two fantastic saves from Onana. But it was good to see us sort of turn it on a little bit more, particularly after that fucking stupid non-red card.
And then we end up with Eze's second cutback that he receives. This time it's from Sarr, who does brilliant work to sell two defenders with a chop before cutting it back to Eze. Why Hesketh does he go for the near post?
Yeah, I don't know. We were saying exactly the same thing in the stand. In fact, I wish he had, because when he missed, my mate, who I go with, who's bigger and stronger than me, slammed both his hands on the back of my shoulders, and it fucking hurt. And if he'd have scored, I would have taken it. Yeah, like you say, it's certainly from where I was stood, like where my seat is in Block D, the whole goal is wide open. There's a bloke, I think, in the goalie's eye line, certainly near him anyway. Just think if Eze just smacks it anywhere in that direction, that's in. There's as good as the save was for Sarr, he ain't saving that. And it's just such a shame, because it was a really good, quick move. And like you say, Sarr's sort of little turn to bin off two Man U players was absolutely brilliant. And that you couldn't have given Ebbs a better pass. And both the chances Eze had, you would put your house on him scoring. And I'm glad I didn't, because otherwise we wouldn't be recording this. But yeah, he should have done better, shouldn't he? He should have scored that one for sure.
Yeah, and it was like my body released the adrenaline thinking it was a goal. Like, I didn't know how to behave, because my body had fully prepared for limbs of the century, because that's what it would have felt like. And then just had to stand there like, fuck, has that not gone in? But it was, you mentioned a bit earlier, the atmosphere was just incredible by this point. It was really loud, and yeah, it was just having a great time. I was just saying, I just thought it was such a great 0-0, because it had a bit of everything in it. And, Man United fans did their part as well. It was like a really just all around great game, I thought. Really, really enjoyed it. And this part is probably the goalkeeper in me, innit? The goalie's on top. That's why I probably enjoyed it a bit more than others. But yeah, excellent 0-0, and it's a good point. Especially any time your goalkeeper's got to make that many saves in the first half, take the 0-0. I think I said it when he made the third save in the stands. I was like, let's all shake on a 0-0 now and go home. But, yes, good point. 3 unbeaten now in the league, and we head on to Goodison for the last ever time. Not because they're going to get relegated and then go out of business, because they'll be moving to their new stadium, I think, by the following season. So very likely our last trip to Goodison.
They might also get relegated and go out of business.
Yeah,
both things can be true.
Did you ever go Goodison, Albert?
No. I've been around Goodison when I was working in Liverpool, but I've never actually been inside Goodison Park.
Inside. Any good memories, Albert? Hesketh, sorry.
No, I've not been. I just told you that. And walking around it wasn't that memorable either.
Mine was probably memorable for Albert not having been there with me, to be honest. I went once where we won Yala and Fraser Campbell scored. That was pretty good. We were near the front, and I was with Vanessa, my wife, who's American, and her friend who's American. And in the car up, she was like, "Oh, I know Tim Howard. Yeah, Tim Howard's the keeper, like the goalie for America. I really like Tim Howard." And we were like, "You don't like Tim Howard. Not today. You don't like Tim Howard."
And when what he says about you.
And when Yala scored, we were all going mad, and she was screaming, "Fuck you, Tim Howard! Sorry, fuck you, sorry." So that was
he was probably
good
saying something similar.
Yeah. I like it though. It's a good ground. It's a shame I won't be able to go again because I'm not going on Saturday. What about you, T?
Yeah, the back-to-back 3-2s, right, we had there in first season after promotion and then the one after. I always confuse it. Pulis. I always confuse the one. So I know, because that was Yarla's first Premier League goal, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
When he cuts it across the goalie. Cameron Jerome scored the other one. Was it Fraser Campbell or Cameron Jerome? I thought it was Cameron Jerome.
I think it was Fraser Campbell.
I'm going to look it up. I think it's Yarla Punchin and Cameron Jerome.
Punchin gets one.
I think that's the other game. So the one that I went to was Jedi, Campbell, Balassi.
Balassi, yeah. Okay. So then who scored in the... Because Balassi didn't score in both, did he? Or did he?
Bear with me.
Yeah,
Punchin definitely.
I thought Punch scored in both.
Punch and Jerome and Scott Dan scored in one.
It was Scott Dan.
Yeah, Scott Dan. Okay, so Scott Dan scored in the first one. So that was when I was stood next to his family and not realising it. So we got into the stands, and then there was like a bunch of Scousers next to us, who then, when we scored, didn't celebrate. It was just like, this is weird. Like, what's going on? And then Scott Dan scored and they went fucking bonkers. It was like, oh, right, that makes sense. They must be Scott Dan's family. And isn't he a Liverpool fan as well, Scott Dan? So he must have doubly loved that. So, no, yeah, so those are and of course, one of my best ever footballing memories come at Goodison Park on my 15th birthday when a certain Attilio Lombardo just slotted the ball past. Was it still Neville Southall at that point? I think it
probably was.
Probably.
Yeah. And before then getting brought down for a penalty that Bruce Dyer slotted for a 2-1 win on opening day.
That was particularly sweet for me as well because my form tutor at the time was an Everton fan. Mr. Yarker took his knee off at the golf club. Yeah.
Mr. Yarker.
You did?
No, he did. He on our French residential
gave me a D.
yeah.
So not today, mate.
Steady. That was Jeff, the scout leader. Mr. Yarker was playing golf on the French residential. Went to tee off with a driver, misjudged it, and hit his own kneecap and sent his kneecap 90 degrees round his leg.
Oh,
and
Jesus!
He's all right. Yeah. And then Lombardo mugged them off just to really twist the screw.
Just like it was incredibly hot that day as well, and I just like the yellow kit just seemed to glow on their pitch. I don't know how to explain it. And just Lombardo was just like, within the first 5 minutes, you were just like, Jesus Christ, he's good.
Yeah. What was brighter, the kit or his head?
Yeah, the sun just shining off of it. And I think Duncan Ferguson scored for Everton in that game late on. But yeah, good day. So some good memories there, some bad ones as well.
He probably has taken someone's kneecaps off with a golf club.
He doesn't need the golf club, mate.
Just looking at your kneecap would have your kneecap going halfway around.
Yeah. So yeah, none of us go in by the sounds of things. I really hope it's our first league win of the season because we need it. Yeah.
And with Everton at the moment, the good thing is even if we're 2-0 down, the game isn't over, people.
Yeah. Well, so they've gone they were 2-0 up against Brentford, and in the 87th minute, which is the latest that a Premier League team's ever thrown away a 2-0 to lose in Premier League history. Yeah. And then the following week to Villa, they did the same thing, went 2-0 up and lost 3-2.
Yep.
And then in the following game, they took the lead and then drew 1-1 with Leicester.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sound right? So, I mean, you kind of want them to take the lead, but we really do. It would be nice, Albert, to get the first goal in a game for once.
It'd be nice to get any goal in any game.
Indeed. But Hesketh, we've got to win. Got to be going there to win, right? Glasgow goes in to win games.
Yeah.
Except from in that first half against United. I think that's the first time that maybe he didn't.
Yeah, he definitely does. And I think it'll be interesting to see, like Albert sort of briefly touched on, how we set up front. Because I think Nketiah has been good since he's come in. And what I like about him is that he seems to want to affect the game. He wants to get the ball and run forward with it. And we've seen that in sort of spurts during these first 3 games. Whereas JP's been off the ball a little bit, and I don't think that's necessarily his fault, because I think the team is not playing as well as it has, and he had a bit of a stop-start summer and all that. But I'd like to see Sarr get a start. I think he, like we said, he looks good. He's pacey. I think we can use that. Whoever else plays up front, I think Sarr should get a go.
Is that who's that at the expense of? Do you move Nketiah forward? You take Nketiah out? You take Mateta out? What's your 3?
For me, I think on form, I'd probably take JP out. But then we've seen Sarr play out wide and we've seen Sarr play in the middle. And he looks pretty adept at both, to be honest. I'd like to see Nketiah still play as one of these narrow 10s, however you want to call it, because I think him getting the ball deep and bringing the ball forward has been really good. So it's been sort of the highlight of his play. So I'd like to see that. Maybe put Sarr up front, and then you can sort of change it around between them if it doesn't work. But yeah, I mean, it's in a way it's good that it's difficult for us to predict, because that also means that it's going to be difficult for the opposition to predict and know how to set up. And having that depth, albeit in a team that's not won a league game this season, is still quite a nice quandary to have.
Ideally, Everton have just had this announcement that they're about to be bought out. They got 4 players coming back from injury. So what could go wrong?
I know.
Anybody else interested in a 4-2-3-1, or is that just me?
I thought that was you offering your ticket for the Chelsea game again there.
Yeah.
Well, I talked about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago, saying that against teams we want to beat, I don't necessarily want to play 5 at the back. So maybe, yes, I can see how that would work. A 4-2-3-1 or a sort of 4-2-2-2 kind of vibe. I think it's unlikely at the moment. And the fact that we've got a whole lot of centre backs in our squad as well probably means we need to play 3 at the back. But yeah, I don't know. I can't see a scenario where we're playing Eze, Sarr, Nketiah and Mateta all at the same time, unless we're goals down and we're trying to get something back. But yeah, I don't know. I think the formation will remain the same. It'll just be a question mark over to whether Sarr gets in a start or not. And I think we all think he deserves it, but I still feel like this might be a little bit too early. More likely to do it in a home game. But he certainly likes him off the bench as a number 9 to use his pace to get him behind the stretch defenders when the game's later. So maybe that's just a plan he's got for him for the season. But we'll have to see how it goes. Jesse Derry's also been training with the first squad this week, so maybe an appearance for him on the bench. We've got to do what we've got to try and get him some game time. Otherwise, we're going to lose him to Chelsea, I think it is, sniffing around when it comes to first professional contract. So we've got to at least give him some signals that, hey, we're thinking about you in and around the first team. So hopefully go up there, get a 3-0 lead and then put him on for the last 15 or something. That'd be nice. Right, before we end, little thoughts on the League Cup draw. Obviously, it's Aston Villa away. For me, they are in Europe. They're in the Champions League. They're having to expend a lot of resources in that, and I'm sure we're likely to get a weakened Villa team, Albert. So maybe on paper looks like a tougher draw than it might end up being. That's my optimistic tone.
Yeah. I'll go on. I'll hang my hat on that. They've sort of had a mixed sort of start, haven't they? Okay, we talk about them being in Europe, but they've strengthened. They've definitely sort of fleshed out the squad, so I'm sure they'll be able to put out the majority of a first team, depending on how seriously they want to take the competition. They're a good side, and we've got to start imposing ourselves a little bit more, and we've definitely got to improve at the back. We're sort of still sort of stuttering a little bit. It's not quite firing on all cylinders. But I'm desperate, absolutely desperate to progress in the cups. So as far as I'm concerned, we should be going there with our best 11, and let's try and play our game. And any fixture congestion or fatigue that they've got, because now they're playing in the Champions League and the Premier League and all these wonderful cup competitions, you hope that's a factor that we can try and sort of take advantage of on the day. But what a shit draw!
Yeah, it's a bit shoddy. But Preston at home would have been nice, not Preston away. Never Preston away. Never Preston away. And the worst thing is I would have gone to Preston away, because I just feel like it's Crystal Palace heritage, to be honest. But no, give it a miss. Right, perfect. Thanks to everyone for listening. That's it this week. I don't know when it's not international break yet, is it? So we'll be back next week, I imagine. Mm-hmm. And not that I don't even think we take international breaks off at the moment, do we? Much to Albert's dismay. But no, thanks for listening, and back same time next week. Until then, up the Palace.
How much is that toffee in the window? The one with the legendary towel. How much is that toffee in the window? I do hope that toffee's for sale.
Needed an air horn.